The ending, I wouldn't say I was surprised on the outcome. I was surprised on what technique they used to bring about the outcome. And let me just say, that was a surprise in the worst way possible. For two reasons. I didn't think you could disappoint me this much in an ending, but they double disappointed me in two ways. One, the line where Ezekiel has caused quote-unquote chaos as all of these girls are about to fall off beams and whatnot, and then he literally looks at Cassie and says, "You cannot save them all." As an audience, you go, "Hold on, wait a second. What are you talking about? You can't save them all. This woman is fighting for her own life, let alone the girls' lives. You're trying to murder her. Why are you thinking she's even thinking about saving them all? She can't save them all. She's about to die herself, right? Aren't you about to kill her?" But instead, the villain's thinking about how she can't save them. Anyways, that was a dialogue problem. That's not the actual problem. The actual problem was that she all of a sudden just grows arms that have herself as part of them, and
like she
picks
could be
up
in
all of
multiple
the girls.
places at once.
Yes, and saves them all out of nowhere. Now,
Yes.
they said she would discover powers, but let me tell you, when you just decide to grow the powers that you need at the perfect moment that you need them, that is the most Deus Ex Machina ending you could think of. Where you just say, okay, let me just become the god over this scenario and literally pick up and put the pieces back where they belong so everything can be okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Now it's that's so okay, right? It's so okay.
This is the part in the script where it says, "Then a miracle happens," and then it continues with the script.
Then a miracle happened. Okay, so that was the first thing, right? The fact that she could just have these powers that solved all the problems. Now, I think someone who's listening to this would say, "Oh, well, they did hint that she would grow new powers earlier in the movie when the spider guy who had a pointless scene where they went off to Peru for no reason just to have this one scene and talk about how she would get her powers whenever she felt like it. They actually hinted to that earlier, so it's okay." Well, let me just tell you, like, that's true that they did hint at it earlier, but when you just have the powers come out of nowhere and solve the problem, it begs to question, like, what could actually stop her, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
is there
also this movie gave no precedent. Like there was no precedent for the power she developed in that scene. We're never
right?
shown any other character who does what she does, and it's like he says she could be multiple places at once, but we're never shown what that looks like. We're not given like an example. It's just like it's just said, one and done, and it is kind of like innocuous and bit like amb- ambivalent, not ambivalent, but like ambiguous.
Right.
And so it's
And,
just like it's not clear what that means. And so when it happens, it's like, what is this? Like, what are we seeing here?
right. And here's the thing: if you could think of a a completely different thing coming in and solving that problem instantly, you know that there's something wrong with that technique being the solution, right? So if you think like, oh, her magic power was she could turn her enemies into little spiders and then they just run away and that would solve the problem, which that could have been her power, then that clearly isn't the right technique. Or, oh, she could make spiders appear in his brain and eat up his brain and then that would work. Or, oh, she could summon all the spiders from around to go and save the girls and pull them back onto the ledges, right? Whatever. That, like, any
Actually, I would have
number of
loved to
these
see
things
that.
I just came up with in my brain in 5 seconds would have been just as justifiable explanations for what just happened, means that there wasn't a real substance here on how they solved this problem, right? Like, this shouldn't be this simple to resolve. Versus, let's just say, my favorite, Lord of the Rings, where, at the end of the day, Gollum is the one that ends up destroying the ring in the Lord of the Rings in a twist of fate where Frodo doesn't actually throw the ring into Mount Doom and says it is mine and keeps it for himself, right? the fact that Gollum is the one that throws it in has symbolic significance. Also, it's like, how could you really resolve that in a different way? Well, Sam throwing it in really worked. Not really. It's not like the Nazgul coming would help. Like there's you could try to put other things in there, but it doesn't work in the same way as having Gollum there. And so that's where everything that they had built beforehand fulfills expectations in a way that is satisfying and was even foreshadowed in some ways in earlier parts of the story. There is nothing like that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, probably overdid that point. Just wanted to say that. The other point, which I have to say, so Ezekiel, the fact that an S in the Pepsi Cola company sign is what killed him is the stupidest ending to a villain ever. And the reason it's stupid is not because an S in the Pepsi Cola sign crushed a man. Because let's just assume that it was
he died for the sake of advertisement.
Yeah. Drink Coke, right? Is that the sign? I don't know. But anyways, it's not the fact that a sign killed him. Because if a sign fell on me, it could kill me. I believe that. The problem is that they have precedent of this man being hit by multi-ton vehicles going at 60 plus miles an hour at any given time in the movie multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
This man
especially
got
love
hit.
the scene he leaps up and then the ambulance
Exactly.
hits him in the air.
Oh my gosh! Oh.
Like he sees the ambulance and jumps up like right in the way of it too.
To get hit by it. Earlier, there was a taxi, and it busts through a wall and hits him. He does not die, right? If that's not enough, an ambulance drives off of a freeway? I think it was a freeway through a brick wall, flies through the air. The man jumps, like you said, jumps up to meet it, right? Which doesn't make sense. Why the bad guy jumped into harm's way? Because no one does that.
He's like had this like take me moment.
Exactly.
He wanted out of this movie too.
Oh my gosh.
He tried and failed.
Yes. No, but he jumps up, he gets hit by an even stronger vehicle, not even just going across the air like the ground, flying through the air at top speed, hits him, does not die, but proceeds to fall and get hit by a sign piece, and that does him in. That was just like this every precedent you have set in this movie says this should not work. This should not happen. But yeah, it did. It stopped him. So
that's the power of Pepsi for you.
That's the power of Pepsi. The power of Pepsi. Yes. Man. Oh boy. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I want to say on that. Because
drink Pepsi too, and you too can defeat your enemies.
That's the story. That's the message. That's what they want you to take away.
Yeah.
Drink Pepsi.